Welcome to another story on Dieu Han RV. Wherever you are right now, I hope this moment brings you peace. Some of you might be watching this on a quiet evening, others during a busy lunch break. But here, time slows down, because this is where we explore the hearts behind every decision, the silence behind every smile. Thank you for choosing to be here. Let the story begin. Dieu Han has just been introduced to a wealthy man in his 30s. He's polite, successful, and seems like someone any mother would want for her daughter. But is money enough to replace the depth of shared memories and silent care? This new man brings with him comfort, but love isn't always about comfort. In her eyes, he is new. But in her heart, are the others really gone? Then watches from a distance. He's the quiet one who has been there through storms and silence. His love isn't loud, but it's real. He brought food, he brought protection, and never asked for anything. Can that kind of love ever compete with wealth and confidence? Does Dieu Han even know how much he's held back just to respect her space? Behind every silence, there's a man breaking inside. Dan has never hidden his feelings. He was the first to say he loved her. He protected both Dieu Han and little Tom, even when no one asked him to. Now, seeing a new man enter the picture, his heart burns with jealousy and fear. Is he losing her before he ever truly had her? Love, when threatened, can become a storm that swallows everything. What happens when three men love one woman, and each thinks he's the right one for her? Will Dieu Han choose peace or passion, safety or sacrifice? And what about Tom, who truly wants to be there for the child, not just for her? The heart wants what it wants, but time reveals what love really means. This triangle was never meant to form, yet here they are. If this moment touched your heart even just a little, please support our journey. Click like to show your love, and subscribe to Dieu Han RV for more emotional stories. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter. Every click helps us continue telling the stories that matter. Your support means more than you know, and we're grateful to have you here with us. After days of tending her garden and repairing the small path outside, Dieu Han finally felt ready. She gently packed a small bag with local fruits, a warm scarf, and a handwritten note. Her heart remembered too well the woman who once offered her water, kindness, and a safe place. Today, it was Han's turn to give something back. She stepped out of her gate, each step filled with quiet gratitude. The road to the woman's house was quiet, lined with trees and soft winds. Dieu Han held the gift tightly, not for its value, but for what it meant. A simple thank you for a time when she had nothing but fear and confusion. Back then, a stranger's kindness was enough to keep her going. Now, she hoped her visit would bring light in return. The woman opened the door with surprise and joy. Time had passed, but she recognized Han immediately. There were tears, laughter, and long hugs exchanged without many words. In those moments, no explanation was needed. Two hearts simply remembered what had once been shared. Dieu Han placed the fruit basket on the old wooden table. She handed the scarf over, saying it might come in handy on cold mornings. The woman smiled, touched more by the gesture than the gift itself. They sat together, sharing warm tea and even warmer silence. Sometimes, love shows up in quiet visits and thoughtful details. Before leaving, Dieu Han looked around the humble home. It was the same as before, yet somehow warmer. She whispered her thanks again and promised to visit more often. The woman waved her goodbye, eyes full of gentle pride, as Han walked away. Her heart felt lighter, full of quiet peace. Dieu Han smiled warmly as the kind woman introduced her guest. She said softly, "This is my adopted son, Min. He's in real estate, and he's doing well for himself." Min stood up, extended his hand politely. His eyes were calm but observant, clearly intrigued by Han. The room felt a little more formal all of a sudden. Though still warm, Han was surprised, but kept her composure. Min said, "I've heard about you. Auntie told me how brave you were." He smiled gently, then added, "It's not often you meet someone with that much heart." Dieu Han blushed slightly, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to compliments from strangers. The woman beamed with pride, clearly fond of both. Han looked at the woman, then at Min. Something about the way he spoke felt grounded. As the conversation continued, Min asked about DieuHan's journey. She hesitated, then briefly mentioned her search for her father. His expression turned serious, respectful. "That must have been difficult," he said softly. Han nodded, eyes lowering for a moment. The woman patted her hand, comforting. Min added, "Anyone who's been through that and still smiles is someone rare." Min leaned forward slightly, his tone more personal. "I don't usually talk much about myself, but I know how it feels to be lost." Han looked at him, surprised by his openness. He continued, "We all have shadows, but some of us turn them into strength." There was a brief silence. Heavy but not uncomfortable. Han felt oddly safe in that moment. The woman watched them both, her smile knowing. Min turned the topic to lighter things, asking about Tom. Han's face lit up when she talked about her son. "He sounds amazing," Min said sincerely. "You're raising him alone," Han nodded. And he looked deeply impressed. "Raising a child on your own, and still being this strong. That's real courage." The woman nodded in agreement. Han smiled, thankful but unsure how to react. The woman excused herself for a moment, leaving the two alone. Min leaned back, observing Han with gentle curiosity. "Do you ever let people in?" he asked, quiet but direct. Han hesitated, heart skipping a beat. "I don't know how anymore," she admitted. Min nodded, understanding. "Maybe sometimes, you just need someone to wait at the door." The woman excused herself for a moment, leaving the two alone. Min leaned back, observing Han with gentle curiosity. "Do you ever let people in?" he asked, quiet but direct. Han hesitated, heart skipping a beat. "I don't know how anymore," she admitted. Min nodded, understanding. "Maybe sometimes, you just need someone to wait at the door." Before leaving, Min handed DieuHan a small wrap box. "Just a small gift," he said with a wink. Han took it, unsure but grateful. Outside, the air was cooler, and the silence carried questions. Was this just a meeting, or something more? Min smiled as he left, and Han stood in thought. Fate, it seemed, was not done with her yet. Sitting across from each other in the quiet living room, Min spoke calmly. "Love isn't just fireworks. It's who stays when the fire's gone." Han looked down at her hands. "Sometimes staying feels heavier than leaving," she said softly. Min nodded, "But real love doesn't run from silence." The room fell into stillness, but their thoughts spoke loudly. Some truths only rise when the noise fades. Min leaned back into the worn sofa and asked, "What does love mean to you now?" Han took a deep breath. "It means safety. It means not having to pretend. I used to think love was chasing highs," she said. "But now, I want love that lets me exhale." Min smiled. "Sounds like you've grown into your heart." A quiet pause followed, full of something unspoken. Han looked around the cozy room and asked, "Have you ever truly loved anyone?" Min nodded slowly. "Yes. But I lost her chasing things I thought mattered more." "Did they?" Han asked. Min's voice dropped. "No. None of it meant a thing without her." Their eyes met. "Sometimes regret is the clearest form of love we ever speak." Min reached for the teapot and refilled Han's cup. "Life's strange, isn't it? One moment you're surviving, the next you're searching for meaning." Han nodded. "Sometimes I forget to live. I'm always running from something," Min said. "Me too. It's exhausting wearing armor all the time." They both smiled faintly. "Maybe peace isn't found. Maybe we have to build it, brick by brick." Han gazed out the window where the sun filtered through leaves. "Do you think people can start over truly?" Min paused. "Only if they stop blaming the past." Han whispered. "That's the hardest part." Min nodded. "But sometimes letting go is the most radical kind of courage." Outside, a bird chirped, oblivious to their heavy thoughts. Even simple things keep moving forward. Min looked at her and asked, "If you could have anything right now, what would it be?" Han smiled. "A garden, a small one, with peace, not people yelling." Min chuckled. "That sounds like heaven." Han said, "And a swing for Tom. He deserves more joy than I had." Their eyes met in quiet agreement. Sometimes, dreams are not about grandeur but about healing. Min's tone shifted as they stepped outside. His smile faded, replaced by a serious, almost cold expression. Han sensed something had changed. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Han, I need to tell you something," He said, just you and me. No one else. This can't leave this space. Han's heart started to race. She wasn't prepared for what was coming. I don't like marriage, Min said quietly. Han blinked, confused. It's not that I hate women, he continued, but because I've been hiding something for years. He looked straight at her. I've only ever loved one person, and it wasn't a woman. Han gasped, shocked but silent. This wasn't just a personal truth. It was a secret that could ruin him if exposed. I live in a world where this truth could cost me everything, Min said, his voice low and tired. So I built an image, the successful businessman, a future husband. Someone any woman would be proud of, but it's a lie, Han, all of it. He looked away, ashamed. I told you because I see something real in you, and I'm tired of pretending. Han stood frozen, not from judgment, but from the weight of trust Min had just placed in her. She saw pain behind his success, a loneliness hidden behind laughter. Then, thank you for trusting me, she whispered. Your truth is safe. He nodded, eyes glistening. To strangers in a backyard, bound not by love, but by a secret that could shatter everything. Min took a deep breath, his voice trembling. And the person I loved all these years is. He stopped. His lips parted but no words came out. Instead, silence hung thick in the air, filled with unspoken pain and buried truth. Han looked into his eyes, and in that moment, she understood. But some things, some names, are too heavy to say aloud. What secret did Min almost reveal? Who is the person his heart has clung to in silence for so long? And how will this change everything for Han? The story is far from over. So many truths still lie in the shadows. If you're feeling the storm coming, stay with us, hit like, subscribe to DieuHan RV, and ring the bell so you never miss what happens.